Good morning and welcome to Veterans Heartbeat on the Pulse of the Veteran, where we discuss issues of health, happiness, opportunity, and well-being of interest to the veteran community, their families, and the community who honors them.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Veterans Heartbeat, brought to you by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. My name is Jason Zencraft. My co-host Ed Lisofsky is here with me, and he is the Executive Director of River. We welcome you to a weekly wide-ranging discussion of issues, events, opportunities, and needs in our veteran community. Morning, Ed. How you doing?
Morning, Jason.
We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Farside Signs. They create amazing-looking vehicle graphics that will drive traffic to your business. They are located at 1526 South Avenue West in Missoula. Follow them on the web, Instagram, and Facebook, or just stop on by.
So this morning we're talking a little bit to Sam Redfern with Concerned Veterans of America. And Sam got to meet the president when he was in Great Falls on Thursday. How was that, Sam?
That was a great event. It's always good to have our president, no matter which side of the aisle he's on, come to Montana and meet with our people. We were talking on the drive back from Great Falls with our group, and a lot of us were trying to recollect how many times presidents have held big events in Montana, and I can only recall 2 in the last 12 to 15 years. So,
which presidents?
I remember President Obama coming to Missoula in 2008, and I know President Bush came to a big venue in Billings, I believe in the first time he ran for office. But this first time we've had, a sitting president come into Great Falls, where literally, Ed, and your team, there were thousands of people that could not get in. And it was lines wrapped around. It was electric for the folks that were able to get in. And I really appreciate the president's compassion, because he was aware that there were a lot of veterans outside. There were a lot of Montana citizens outside that couldn't get in. And so he was very aware of that. And we just need bigger venues.
Well, yeah.
How about Adams Fieldhouse?
I think that would have been we would have flown that, overfilled that too. What was your biggest takeaway with the president's visit?
Well, some have categorized this as a trip for, political vengeance, but I think this was more of him connecting. I mean, I saw him meeting with the, shaking hands with the miners, with the real blue-collar people that make Montana great and that build this state up. And I think it was a chance for him to connect directly with the people. There were thousands of veterans there from all eras. I saw a World War II veteran standing right next to the president, and just beaming that he addressed veterans' issues so clearly. I think the president came in and really talked about his vision on trade and on a host of issues that will impact Montana, and really made it clear that he's going to fight for veterans. And he said it took so many years to get Veterans Choice, and we've finally got a bill, the VA Mission Act, he signed a few weeks ago, and he was there to support our military and veterans.
One of the things that we've been talking about is how River has been attacked.
Right.
And one of the things that I keep seeing over and over and over again is this divisiveness that's going on, even in Montana. And it's kind of a sad situation that has to be. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the president actually hit on this, where he said some people will say that they are with you, and then they'll act or vote differently. And he said, would you rather have some people in your life, or in his sense, he was talking about the Senate, that say they're with you and then act like they're with you, or would you rather be associated with people that will stab you in the back? And I had a great mentor in Montana, Dan Gallagher. He said, in the veteran community, when you lead from the front, the only way people can get you is from the back.
Yeah, and I've experienced that with my own self. Sam, you're a student at the Institute, is that correct?
Yeah, I've been a part of the River program, and our family's enjoyed several recreation opportunities and some of the support River's offered to the community.
In the studio this morning, we got Ed McClellan, who's with Operation Creekside, and he delivered a bench yesterday to a Green Star family member.
Well, thank you, sir, for doing that. I heard about the program. Actually, John England and quite a few of the Legion guys in Great Falls were talking about this. And one of the things that was great about the president's trip to Montana that brought thousands of vets together, and there was a lot of great discussions that were held in Great Falls.
You know, I'm going to bring up a couple questions here for you, okay, Sam? You talked about the Mission Act.
Yes.
And I've talked about the division. One of the things I've been trying to figure out why River has been under such a focus of attack. And there's a big division in the veterans community, would you agree, on the issue of privatization for medical care and non-privatization and keeping it within the VA?
Yeah, somewhat agree. I wouldn't say a big. I would say it's a issue IQ for the issue because we have common vision, I think, for Montana veterans, at least the groups that we talk to and I talk to, about choice and access for care. So those goalposts have been successfully moved. That conversation's been going on for 4 to 6 years, and I think most veterans that we've polled and that we've talked to agree choice and access are fundamental to our veteran community. The question is, what does that look like? Does that look like, models like River, where you have community health clinics that serve veterans? Is that, choice within the government healthcare system or the VA system? Or is that direct primary care? What is that choice and access going to look like? And so I think that is where the veterans are debating, discussing, and that's where the rub is right now. But the issue of choice and access has been won. Most veterans agree that we've got to have greater choice and greater access.
So one of the specialties that Ed is, he's an ordained minister, and he works with a lot of Green Star families also. And for our folks listening, if you're not aware by now, Green Star is the families that have had a veteran complete suicide. And I know that's not the political correct word, and I'm not PC, so I get myself in trouble. But, Ed, you've seen the issues within a lot of these veterans. Have you got any comment?
It is estimated at 22 per day, and I think it's been going on for quite some time. My experience has been meeting with the families, and if we stop soldier suicide today, these families will still be hurting, and that's an absolute fact.
And that's a problem that we have, isn't it, Sam, is what do we do with the families? How many programs are there out there for families? You cover this whole state that are suffering from PTSD.
Yeah, specific towards these families that have our Green Star families, as you guys have described, there's very little, in resources. And even looking at the Missoula community, we've got some significant challenges on, veterans, taking care of veterans, and programs in place that actually understand the veteran and understand the veteran family. And we really, I served, in the chaplain corps, and we really need, with the U.S. Army, I served in the chaplain corps, we really need programs that are peer-to-peer, that have veterans helping veterans through issues, because some of these issues are very complex, and the veteran often feels like nobody understands what they went through in war, that nobody can relate. Maybe they had a moral injury in war, and that they're not comfortable sharing that with their spouse. And so it's really important that we allow the freedom and the opportunity to implement vet-to-vet programs within our communities.
I know that Ed does a lot of peer-to-peer. Am I right, Ed?
Yeah, you bring up a interesting point there. In 2015, we lost one of our contacts was an Army chaplain, and he's a soldier that didn't reach out for help, and within 11 and a half months, his assistant also committed suicide. So,
Wow.
this is such a big deal, and that's kind of what got me clued in to the necessity for helping veterans and helping these families. But it's still a big problem, and I'm up here from California, and I want to partner with Ed, and I want to do better. I'm a grateful civilian. I'm not even a military person, but I think we should do better at helping our vets on all levels.
Well, thank you for your vision for that and what you're doing to help these families.
One of the things that you've been working very diligently on, Sam, is uniting all the veterans in the state, trying to get better help for them. How has that been going?
Well, I would say mixed results thus far. When veterans leave the service, they really lose, that community, and so they have to find that new community, often within the veterans world, and sometimes the veterans world in the past has been a little bit tribal. And everyone's got to have their tribe, everyone's got to have their family, but I'm seeing a lot more movement within the last 8 to 10 months towards unity on certain policy changes. For example, there's a lot more unity in the veterans community that we need alternatives to traditional health care. We have a lot of folks that have moved more towards choice and access. We have more unity in the veterans community that suicide is a serious problem, and it's not something, 10 years ago, it was looked down upon or frowned upon to even interact with a family of a service member that committed suicide. I remember commanders, Ed, I know you and I have talked about this, that used to call it an act of cowardice. And so there's been a serious culture shift as we've understood suicidology within the vet community, as we've learned about alternatives to care and better choice and access. I think there's still work to be done to help some of these agencies, whether it's VA, DOD, Guard, National Guard, to work more with community partners. There's still a lot of work, I'm sure you'd agree, that needs to happen there to better unify. But the bottom line is, if you're a veteran leader in the Legion, the VFW, the National Guard, or at River, we should all be working together to help our vets. And we need to start doing that more.
Yeah, I agree. And the gossip factory has to go away.
I agree, Ed. It's not, eventually people will realize it's not productive to our vet community. And I hope veterans will start calling it out more so that we can end that tribalism and that gossip and start working together more, because really the civilian world's watching us and they want to help out, but sometimes we're our own worst enemies, where we scare them off from wanting to help us. So, we gotta come together and start showing that we can work together as one team.
I agree. Well, Sam, it's been good. We'll finish up the show with Ed. I just wanted to get an update from you.
Well, thank you for Ed and River and for supporting Concerned Veterans for America. And I want to make it clear, we were at the Trump event to just welcome the president to Montana. It was a nonpartisan event, and any of the campaign stuff going on, we stay out of that. But we were proud to welcome the president of the United States to Montana, and we saw value there in so many veterans attending, and we wanted to really hear from them about what issues they're facing. We took some of our volunteers and staff and asked the veterans what's going on in their community, and got some great feedback. But thanks for all you're doing, River, to help with these Green Star families, and thanks to your guest as well for coming up from California and all the work he's doing.
So as I said earlier, we have a special guest, Ed McClellan from Operation Creekside, in the studio this morning. Good morning, Ed.
Morning.
So you're not a veteran. How did you get involved in veteran suicide?
You know, as a small nonprofit in California, we started about 10 years ago sending out care packs. And I mentioned it earlier. One of our Army chaplains came home, and he was at Fort Hood when that shooting took place a few years back, and ended up in Kansas, and he took his own life. And so it was kind of like an eye-opening thing for me to realize what was happening, and it just got us in the mix of, how do we not only send the care packs to our deployed troops, but how do we care for these returning active duty and also veterans that struggle? And Ed, I know that you know how much they struggle.
We as a community owe the families so much, because when you look at the whole situation, it's not just an event that happened today, it's generational. It carries forward to the children of the veteran that has killed themselves. So on the 4th of July, I kind of wanted to bring this forward to the listeners, mainly because that's a big day that we do lose quite a few veterans to suicide. I know that we're currently working with about 4 families right now from the weekend. So you brought a bench up. How many benches have you done?
This is actually the 3rd bench that we've done, and it all started with a mom in Rock Springs, Wyoming, that saw something online that she really liked, and we just kind of put it together last year and delivered that bench. And since then we've delivered a second one to Klamath Falls, Oregon, and this is our 3rd bench. And I know that you've seen this bench just this morning, and it's beautifully crafted, and it's definitely custom. And I think it really helps with the fact that these families don't want their loved ones to be ever forgotten. And I'm in town from 900 miles away, and this bench that we're delivering is for a U.S. Marine, and his best friend is also in town. And like I say, it's difficult for all of us, but it's something that needs to be done, because these families need to be supported. And like I say, they don't sign up for any of this, and unfortunately, it's something they have to deal with for the rest of their lives.
The listeners have heard me talk about the statistics about how Montana has been number 1 in the nation per capita. We did some calculations. If we came together, and that's why we were talking to Sam about this, if we came together and said we were going to save 10 veterans this year, 10, that's it, we would drop to about number 10 in the nation. That's all we got to do is come together, and if we as a group of concerned citizens can't do 10 veterans, something's wrong. On a lighter note, we put a video up on our Facebook page, and on the video, you will see a history of the Star-Spangled Banner. And on the 4th of July weekend, I felt like it was really important that we talk about that a little bit. And that is, Francis Scott Key, when he saw what was going on, he went out and negotiated for the release of the American soldiers that were in captivity on the British boats. And the British were royally pissed at the Americans, and you've heard the song, the American anthem, over and over, and he watched as the British brought to bear the full armament to remove the flag off the rampart. Now, for those of you that don't know it, rampart is a fortified wall within a fort. So a rampart's the wall to the outer part of the fort. And they had the American flag there on that rampart. And the British had said if we take down the flag and go under British rule, they would stop shelling the rampart. But they brought over 100 ships to bear on that one fort to shell it, to take that one flag down. And I mean, that flag took hit after hit after hit. And they couldn't figure out why it was not going down. The next morning, Francis Scott Key went over to the fort to figure out what was going on, and they kept replacing fathers, and the soldiers, the American soldiers, literally held it up with their bodies. So, little history on the American anthem, and it's well worth listening to. Our veterans have given a lot. They've done a lot, and it's time for this community to start healing and coming together and doing something for these veterans. Something as small as just a thank you can go a long way. For those of you out there that haven't looked at our Facebook page and you're wondering where River is, River moved to 400 Expressway, Unit D, here in Missoula. We did that so that we would have more efficient clinics. We're gearing up to really start taking on some of the medical issues, especially with TBI and the vestibular that we've talked about. We've been in business for 5 years. I want to take the time to really thank some of the more important people that have really helped River. One of them being Sam, you heard him this morning. Another is Dr. Anna Chaco, a retired Army colonel. Without her, River would not be in business. Ken Gemlick from the Office of Public Instruction. You know, we talk about the politicians doing nothing. Elsie Artson, who took over as superintendent of Office of Public Instruction, her predecessor, Denise Juneau, both of them understood that we're never going to medicate out of the suicide issue, but we can educate out of it. And they've both been very staunch supporters of the veterans world. And that crosses the aisle between Democrat and Republican, and that's what we need to do. And I appreciate everybody listening to Veterans Heartbeat. Thank you.
So thank you very much for listening to Veterans Heartbeat. We'd not be able to bring it to you without all the support of the listeners. And thank you again to Farside Signs for sponsoring the show. If you do need a unique vehicle design, swing on by and check them out. Also, thank you to our main sponsor, River. River has an array of services such as veterans-focused education, a vestibular disorder clinic, and now non-pharmaceutical treatments for pain, anxiety, and depression. Check them out on Facebook or on the web at riverofchange.org. Lastly, we'd like to show our appreciation to all of our veterans. Thank you for serving our country and keeping it safe.